Hello, and thanks for joining us on Black Issues Forum. I'm Deborah Holt-Noel. It's been close to a year since our society first began feeling the impact of COVID-19. And this week, the pandemic's impact on our children is fully in the spotlight.
Education leaders to strongly urge that all schools provide in-person learning.
Governor Roy Cooper and the state's new top educator are coming together with a single message.
Our students cannot lose any more time.
Cooper is a Democrat, while Catherine Truitt, the head of the Department of Instruction, is a Republican. But both agree that students need in-person learning for reasons that go beyond the classroom.
We also know that remote learning and this pandemic have taken a tremendous toll on thousands and thousands of families, disrupting jobs, childcare, healthcare, social networks, and even food security.
School is where students learn social skills, get reliable meals, and find their voices.
Meanwhile, the State Board of Education is making changes to the way that students learn about history. New standards for social studies will put more attention on concepts like racism, discrimination, and identity. But some GOP lawmakers are pushing back, saying the move could prompt division and potentially teach students an anti-American viewpoint. For Black Issues Forum, I'm Joshua Senegal.
Among those against the change is Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who's here with us right now. Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for joining Black Issues Forum.
Thank you for having me this morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, one of the intentions of rewriting the social studies standards was to be more inclusive of the diverse voices and perspectives of the student body and also the American public. Do you agree with the intention behind changing the standards?
Well, actually, that's one of the things that worries me most about the standards. We need to make something clear here. There's something that's been misrepresented by all of the GOP members of the state board, so to speak, and that is that we want to hide things that have happened in history. Nothing is further from the truth. As a student of history, I know that it is essential. It is a requirement, actually, for us to teach our students about all the terrible things that have happened in this country. Slavery, Jim Crow, the lack of equal access for women. We have to teach how and why those things happened. But I think also what we need to teach is this. Our system of government, the American system of government, is what made it possible for us to overcome those things. And in these standards, I don't see that being made plain. I see the tone as being very negative and very divisive. And quite frankly, it points to all the bad that's in America, not the good.
Can you provide any specific examples, like where does it end with the intention, which is a good thing, but it begins to sort of veer off into that political territory?
I think when you look at some of the things that are said, some of the language that's used, when they talk about systemic racism, they make mention at some points about the American system of government being systemically discriminatory. Those are the types of things that I think we need to stay away from. Because as I said, there have been times when there has been institutional racism in places across this nation. But by and large, the way we destroyed those things was with our exceptional American government, our founding documents, the words thereof, our Constitution, and our courts of law. And that is why I'm diametrically opposed to these standards. I think that we should point that out as well as pointing out the bad, because without the other doesn't work.
Well, words like systemic have been removed from this last iteration that was approved on Thursday night. So at this point, you have said that you're going to continue the fight on behalf of whom is what I would ask, because so many people had input into the rewriting of these standards, and even the public had feedback. So on whose behalf are you fighting?
Well, here it is. I've heard the number thrown out that 7,000 people responded to these standards. 85% of those people responded in the positive. We just ran a poll ourselves and a petition ourselves over 4 days. It got almost 30,000 signatures of people who are diametrically opposed to the tone and the content of these standards. So we think that this issue is not a dead issue. We need to continue to discuss this issue and try to perfect these standards for the satisfaction of all North Carolinians and not just one side.
Well, let's move on to another big announcement this week, the reopening of schools. Who do you think is benefiting the most? Is this a win-win-win for everyone with regard to returning to in-person learning?
I do. I've said it long ago. Our children need to be back in school. As a candidate for lieutenant governor traveling across the state, one of the number one questions I was asked is, how much influence will you have over opening the schools? When will our schools open back up? As lieutenant governor, it's one of the questions I continue to get from citizens across this state. Our children need to be back in school. We have fought long and hard in this country to make public education a standard, and we have that. It is ingrained in our society, and without it, we see the dreadful effects of learning on our students. And unfortunately, those students that always end up getting the short end of the stick are getting even farther behind. We need to get our teachers back in the classroom, our students back in the classroom, and we need to get back to the business of education in person.
And you mentioned teachers. A lot of teachers, however, are uncomfortable with returning to the classroom, especially in locations where there is large student population. How are you going to support those teachers?
Well, one of the things we need to look at really is trying to work with every entity we can to get the vaccine out as quick as possible. It's an issue of supply and demand right now, and we're working hard to make sure that happens. But I would say to those teachers, please consider what's happening to our students. There are people all over this nation that are making sacrifices, essential workers that are making sacrifices every day. And I think that teachers should be part of that group. I know it's going to be tough, but I would encourage them to be strong and hold on. We're trying to do everything we can to try to make sure that all of our citizens who want the vaccine can get it. And I think that if they come together as a collective, they can keep themselves safe in the classroom. I really have confidence that they can do that.
Well, I think we all want the same things, and I really appreciate you being here with us, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson.
Thank you for having me.